Hello there guys, Billybae10K here, bringing you another video game review. Today, I'm taking a look at Uncharted. I got the Nathan Drake collection while it was on sale on the PS4 store, and knowing these games aren't terribly long, I decided to tackle the first 2007 title. Originally developed by Naughty Dog, who you may know as the developers behind Crash Bandicoot and The Last of Us, and remastered by the wizards over at Bluepoint, the developers behind the Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus remakes. And let me tell you, this game is pure nostalgia. Not in the sense that it's a game from my childhood, but more in the sense that the various mechanics, levels, even the visuals, are from an era of gaming that I treasure with all my heart. From what I've seen of Uncharted across the years, it's an incredibly polished series with amazing set pieces, a great set of stories, and a lovable cast of characters. Uncharted Drake's Fortune is very much a traditional first in the series laying the groundwork title, one that's still trying to find its footing and is a little unsure of itself, but that will blossom into the series we know and love. But we're here to look at the first game on its own merits, and see if it still holds up. So the question remains, how did I find the game? Without further ado, let us begin. Uncharted Drake's Fortune is an action-adventure title that puts you in the shoes of Nathan Drake, a supposed descendant of Sir Francis Drake, as he tries to discover the secrets of his ancestor and find the treasure of El Dorado. My first impressions of this game were, wow, I'm really watching a lost Indiana Jones movie. Lovable rogue with a heart of gold, check. Female love interest who happens to kick ass, check. Mentor figure who pushes Nate forwards, check. A whole host of ancient ruins to explore, check. An ever-growing army of pirates and mercenaries to fight, check. Hell, the main villain is an old explorer and contact of your mentor with that traditional British bad guy accent. And he has a Spanish sidekick lackey. You can't get more Hollywood movie than that. And my god, the cutscenes between chapters 1 and 2 where they do a left to right fade transition from the seaplane to the island dock, oh, that made me scream. I can do that transition too, see? This game feels like it wants to be a movie, and the script would fit right at home on the big screen. Lucky for us, action movies lend their formulas perfectly well to the format of video games, with exploration and gunplay translating without issue. It's that charm that gives Uncharted Drake's Fortune the chance to succeed. If Nate were a less interesting protagonist, if the game didn't go all out with a stellar voice cast, if the controls were a complete mess, the future of gaming would look very different. These titles inspired countless series, most notably the Tomb Raider reboots, which are some of my favorite games of the past decade. Not you. The similarities in terms of the overall formula and even the plot are super surprising to me. I had no idea. And finding out this all originated in Drake's Fortune, it's insane to think about. The game was written and directed by Amy Hennig, an incredibly talented storyteller whose work on the Legacy of Kain franchise is the stuff of legends. Those were games I grew up with on the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2. I even did a Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver Let's Play on this channel a few years ago, links in the top right corner. And here she is, again, flexing with a more action-oriented story, and proving she can handle multiple genres. And fun Legacy of Kain fact, for those of you Legacy of Kain fans out there, I know there's one of you, Kain's voice actor, Simon Templeman, happens to be the British baddie of Uncharted, who I was fawning over earlier. I knew I liked him for a reason. Of course, not everything is perfect. There are sometimes moments where characters don't seem to sell the right emotions for their lines. I first noticed this in the opening chapter. After Sully arrives to save Nate and Elena, the boat begins to explode, and how does Elena respond? Oh no! Bitch, the boat just exploded. That's how you're gonna react? Luckily, these moments are few and far between. For 2007, this voice cast is absolutely fantastic. Emily Rose's snarkiness and sass in the cutscenes as Elena is unrivaled, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Nolan North as Nathan Drake is just a god-tier performance. That man knows how to play a character as naturally as possible. None of his lines felt forced or scripted. Modern video game voice actors could learn a thing or two from him, and I'm sure they have. The soundtrack of the game was composed by Greg Edmondson, mostly known for his work in the TV cult classic Firefly. He was brought in for the first 3 Uncharted titles, and his work in this first iteration was stellar. Nate's theme as the menu music really ramps you up for an epic adventure, while the in-game tracks work to boost the ambiance of a given area. Edmondson stated that when developing the OST, based on the settings the game takes place in, being jungles and ruins, that a more ambient approach worked. And it shows. It's simple, understated, but effective. And the music was a perfect tie-in to bring the title together. But what about the actual game? Well, it's old school. You have 22 chapters, each fairly short. Most follow the pattern of explore area, get into a gunfight with enemies, solve puzzles, rinse and repeat. Some chapters can just be gunfights, some chapters involve driving vehicles. It's a mixed bag of content that reminds us that, at the time, the developers didn't fully know what Uncharted would become, and they were just throwing ideas at the wall and hoping they'd stick. My favorite part of the game is easily the exploration of the various levels. The environments are colorful and vibrant. They're a nice blend between the photorealism that would become the norm of modern gaming and the locales of Naughty Dog's older 3D platforming days. Some don't enjoy this mix of styles, but I honestly found it pleasing to look at, and it hit all the right nostalgia buttons for me. There are hidden treasures to find in most levels that, as you collect them, will unlock various content in the pause menu. New character skins, alternate weapons, cheats, different modes. I had a lot of fun collecting all 61 treasures throughout the game, and you can use a chapter select once you beat the game to go and clear up any missed valuables pretty easily. You can tell this was developed with an old school Naughty Dog mentality because the idea of tons of collectibles harkens back to their previous works. Now, where I felt Uncharted was at its most 50-50 was the platforming. For the most part, Nate's climbing in the various surfaces work a treat. Climbing controls are simple, and while Nate does control a little slow sometimes, he's easy to move around the environment. But then you have moments like this in Chapter 6, where the camera forced me to guess where I needed to jump because it didn't show me the handholds I needed to use. The camera was very weirdly focused here. Or this waterfall in Chapter 4, where I kept mistiming this jump from broken rubble because of how Nate's jump arc works. Sometimes I would jump for a ledge like normal and it wouldn't grab. Other times it would work perfectly. It's just not clear where you need to go sometimes, and that led to a lot of deaths. This game's platforming has, for lack of a better term, a lot of jankiness that I'm sure is ironed out by the time the second game rolls around. But I can forgive the game for not always functioning because it literally was the first of its kind. Of course it was going to come with glitches and issues, and trust me, we will get to those later. Now, the gunfights were good fun, at least on normal mode. It felt balanced, and I enjoyed the idea of the duck, cover, then fire strategy that the game forces you to adapt to. It's a bit simplistic, but it is what it is. I died a lot. This game doesn't pull punches when it comes to you learning how to fight enemies, and they can down you pretty quickly, even on easy mode if you're not careful with how you position yourself. You can hold 2 guns at the same time, plus up to 4 grenades, 1 handgun and 1 large gun. You recover ammo by killing enemies, either by shooting them or by comboing them with hand-to-hand combat, though I stuck to the shooting myself. The combo system in this game felt needlessly tacked on for the sake of being there, in my opinion. You can do a normal combo of square, 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 or you can do a timed brutal combo of square, triangle, square. The brutal combo requires better timing, but enemies killed via this method drop double the ammo, which is cool, but on harder difficulties you can't even approach enemies because you die in 1 or 2 hits from their guns, so what's the point in even having this extra option aside from wanting Drake to knock someone out in a cool way? Shooting is a bit more fun, reminding me of Breath of the Wild's weapon degradation system, in the sense that you're constantly needing to switch out guns to ensure you're always with ammo. As I said earlier, you can only carry 2 at a time. Handguns, submachine guns, assault rifles, and shotguns litter the battlefields. I personally preferred to use submachine guns and assault rifles over shotguns for the faster shooting times and the ability to hit enemies from range. The handguns were mostly good for landing headshots. Sometimes the game will also reward you with powerful weapons like the Dragon Sniper or the M79 grenade launcher. and anytime these weapons are given to you, you're expected to use them. The Dragon Sniper often will appear before you're forced to deal with enemies from afar, for example. Good game design, good job Naughty Dog. All the guns in this game do work, but I have my complaints. The hit detection on headshots is inconsistent. Guns don't feel powerful, you sometimes have to pepper enemies with shots before they'll go down, and for all my talk about the grenade launcher, oftentimes I've used it only to not really kill as many enemies as you'd expect from a massive explosion. The AI of your opponents can also be downright brutal when they wanna be, man. You can get sniped from behind cover, sometimes you're just chucked into a room and overwhelmed, and while I won't spoil it here in terms of footage, I will say the final boss of the game, your final challenge, was easily the worst part of the experience. It was just not fun. 3 extremely tough gunfights in a row, followed by some QTEs, and that's it. Oh, and here's my obligatory fuck your QTEs comment, because they happen so few and far between in-game that they didn't need to be in the title to begin with. The vehicle levels are also a mixed bag. The Jeep level, where you and Elena are escaping a horde of mercenaries, was actually great fun. It reminded me of various railgun shooters from old arcades, where you'd shoot down enemies and drive through beautiful set pieces. On the flip side, fuck the jet ski levels. The random explosive barrels in the water for the sake of them being there was dumb. It broke my immersion. The fact that you can get shot and killed pretty quickly just makes the progression of these levels extremely slow. Trying to drive the jet ski up waterfalls was clunky, and I'm glad to hear we don't have to deal with these levels in future installments. And now, we get to my favorite part of the game, the glitches. I encountered quite a few glitches here and there in my playthrough, so now I'm gonna show you my 4 favorites. Number 4. I was going to die either way, but I just thought the way he teleported was funny. Number 3. It took me a while to realize I wasn't actually shooting anyone with the turret. Amazing. Number 2.
He's over there!
Apparently, you're only supposed to be able to shoot your handgun when hanging. Elena didn't get the memo. Number 1. You wanna see someone fall into the Shadow Realm?
Son of a bitch, where did they all come from?
Speaking of falling, there is nothing funnier than the various ragdoll deaths in this game. Drake falling off of a waterfall, hilarious. Elena getting grenade launched into the ocean, fantastic. The pair getting blown up in the Jeep only to zoom in on Elena T-posing. Mwah. God, this game is an experience, man. Now, I have already mentioned the various unlockables briefly earlier, but I really do adore the feature to play as different character skins throughout the game. Sadly, they don't carry through to skippable cutscenes, which I think is a missed opportunity, but they do carry through to non-skippable cutscenes in levels, so they were kind of halfway there. And that's a great segue into my overall verdict for Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Halfway there. This is a title that gets so much right, but lacks the finesse and quality of its successors. As a 2007 title and the first of its kind since the original Tomb Raider games, it's an insane improvement over what came before. But in 2021, it's archaic and a product of its time. I went into this game knowing it would be a mess in places, but despite the jank, the glitches, the gameplay not really being up to par with what I would normally enjoy, I had so much fun with this title. Call me crazy, but I think a little bit of charm and great presentation can go such a long way to making a game feel better than it might actually be. I also love that Bluepoint kept a lot of the jank in the game during the remaster process, so speedrunners would still be able to access and use glitches like the sky launch or the standing wall shuffle. I couldn't pull off these techniques myself, but I've been told they're in the game and still work, and I can respect that. Sometimes the glitches just make the game so much more entertaining. The fact I'm currently in a hard mode playthrough and intending to finish it tells you that despite this game's faults, I'm still loving it. So, I give Uncharted Drake's Fortune 7 fade transitions out of 10. For the time, it's fantastic, and would probably have scored a lot higher, but now I have actual other games to compare it to, and I don't think this older style of gameplay will be as appealing to everyone. So I would say 7 is a nice score. Uncharted Drake's Fortune was released for the PS3 and PS4, and if you want to play it yourself, I'd recommend Uncharted the Nathan Drake Collection. You can purchase it on the PSN store at a normal price for £15.99, €19.99, and $19.99. However, this game is constantly on sale, so keep an eye out because you'll be able to get it for under £10, euros, or dollars depending on your location. If you're looking for games similar to Uncharted, I will recommend Tomb Raider 2013, the reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise. Lara's first modern day outing feels incredibly similar to Uncharted and you'll be in familiar territory, but she has an awesome bow, so who's the real winner here? Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video game review, please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitch channel down below. I stream 4 times a week on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. If you haven't already, consider checking out my previous review from last week on Katana Zero. That was a lot of fun. Or you can check out my Gaming Journey of 2020 video, where I document my time with games from last year. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.